everybody, welcome back to Diamonds from the Rough. This week, I'm going to work on a set-aside tables. You may or may not have noticed, but I am still gimp-footed. I still can't put any weight on it, which makes the entire process 11.17 thousand million times more difficult than it should be. Let me tell you what I'm going to be doing, and we'll see how long it takes me to do it on one leg. I got both of these tables from a friend of mine, a Rocky, who was an excellent furniture scout for me, and they were free, and they looked to be in fairly decent condition. Grab something to drink, kick back, and see if I can make a diamond from the rough. Now let's take a closer look at these little tables and see what damage there is to fix. I flipped these over and tried to figure out what these are, and I used the information that was available on the label, and unfortunately Google gave me nothing, so I don't actually know who the manufacturer is. The best detail on it is this carved edge. It's on all four sides of both tables, and they are all intact. The worst thing about these tables is probably these little nicks and gouges that I see kind of all over that I have to fill, and also that the legs are a little bit loose. So I'm going to have to get these all tightened up and cleaned before I get anything else done. At this point I realized I was completely out of cleaning solution, so I mixed up a little bit more with TSP cleaner into plain water. All I had to do was stir it up until it dissolved, pour it back into a spray bottle, and voila! Good morning. We are on to day 3, I think, of our table flip, and it's time for the big reveal of what's the style going to be. It's early. Husband brought me coffee because he's an angel. This is my plan. A solid black paint. I'm using chalk paint. I've got 8 ounces here. This is going to be more than enough for 2 side tables. Highlight in gold. I've got Redesigned with Prima's Eternal. This is my absolute favorite gold wax. So those are my colors. I know that's not much in the way of color, but don't worry, we've got a star. The paper, because I've been on a decoupage kick lately. The Lion King. And the Lion Queen. And then each of them is going to have a different shape that will kind of run around the edges. I've got a houndstooth stencil and a harlequin stencil. And I have some gold leaf planned later as well. All right, let's get to painting. And then my brush, I'm going to get it damp to start with. And mist the top of the surface I'm working on because I have to spread it out a lot. And then I just dip just the bottom of the bristles. Don't put the whole brush in there. That is absolutely unnecessary, wasteful of paint, and really hard to clean up. And unfortunately, it's not going to be a ooh, ah, when you're painting black over a black primer. The shock value is not there. However, you can see, because as it's on here, it is a blue-black, so you can definitely see where you are. Now, normally I would have also sanded the top before I painted, just to make sure that it was perfectly smooth. But since I'm going to be covering this with a paper, it's not really necessary to make it perfectly smooth. Ah, broke the closet. Ugh, this table does not want to move. Move! Welcome back, welcome back. Today is going to be the decoupage day. If you've seen my videos already, then you should know this step, so forgive me if I am repeating myself. But if you haven't watched my other videos, first of all, why not? Go watch them. But also, I saw this a million times, and I still would find myself in the middle of attaching it without having done this step. When you get it, it's going to be folded up, almost always. But most of the time it's going to have lines in it. You'll have to take your decoupage paper and lay it down on the back side because the ink can melt, and then you want to iron it. I usually put it on the cotton setting, or maybe one lower, and then I also put water in it for steaming. You can also just spritz if you want with your mister bottle, and you want to just start ironing out these lines. They're not going to necessarily disappear completely, but it will be a whole lot better and less likely to wrinkle on you during the application. Looks a whole lot better. And now she's ready to go on the table.
As always, it's important to make sure that you don't have any completely straight edges on your decoupage paper. So here I am just taking a little bit of water, putting it on with a paintbrush, and tearing it off with my fingers to give an irregular edge. This will look so much better when you're trying to blend in the paint. I'm going to use my regular method of adding the decoupage paper, some spray bottle, paintbrush, and a plastic bag. I skipped using that roller. I spritz the back of the paper, and then using top coat on the paintbrush and a plastic bag on my hand, I just stick down the paper and then give it another top coat and let it dry. Here's where it's important to have those frayed edges instead of straight lines. I'm dabbing in some cocoa coffee colored paint as well as the black, and I'm just blending in those edges. The straight edges would have stood out much more, and these kind of blend into the sides. I am putting on some gold leaf on all of these little circles. I applied gilding glue with a paintbrush and then let it dry for about a half an hour. Once it's clear, it will remain tacky forever or until you put some gold leaf on it.
So the glue is now dried. You can still see that it's reflecting, and my gold leaf went flying across the room. So I'm going to pick it up with the paper that comes on the back of the gold leaf. And if your hands are sweaty or if you just put lotion on, wear gloves or something because your hands are going to stick. Using the paper, I'm just going to slap it on here and then rub the leaf onto the glue, which is never going to be dry again. So that was it. That's easy. And then I like to go through and kind of like cut the leaf with my nail and then gently pull it off just so I can kind of keep as much of it intact as I can. And then move that on over. Because every single little spot has to have leaf over it or it will stay sticky in that spot forever. It's fun, it's tedious, it's messy, and that's why it's fun. But it's not expensive. You can buy multiple different colors. Gold leaf is the most popular, but they also have silver and copper leaf. And this is the same batch of leafing that I've been using since 2020. And I still have some left. Once you're done, I just rub my hand over the whole thing. If I don't feel anything sticking to my fingers, I know it's time I can brush it out. And this is the best part. Now I get to make it rain. Is that not great? I love that.
I repeated this on all four sides, and I switched out to a shorter bristled brush that was a little bit firmer to try and get out those details. Once you've brushed out all of the excess, you can either vacuum up your floor, or in my case, I like to take the extra and put it back in the bag for future projects.
Before I put on the top coat, I sand everything down with a very fine grit rad pad and just make sure that everything is nice and smooth. So this is pre-sanding, this is during sanding, and then I'll have to wipe it back with a damp cloth and get all the dust off. Everything's already been sealed once with a top coat. Now I'm going to further disguise the edges with a Harlequin Mylar stencil. So I just kind of want to make sure it stays in place. Decor wax from Redesign with Prima. It is the color Eternal, and it basically finds its way into just about everything I ever do. For the lioness, I wanted to do a different pattern. This is another Redesign with Prima product. This is a stick and style stencil, and I have already used this multiple times, but it is, as the name implies, sticky. I can actually use the same piece over and over again until it does not stick anymore. So we're going to do that because she's dainty. So doing the same thing, lining up along the edge to make sure that it is not going to be crooked. And then you just simply stick it down. It has a very light, almost like a Post-it note stickiness, so it's easy to remove. Now it's time to clear coat the rest of the body, and I'm going to use clear wax over everything, which will seal this in, and then I'm going to go over with dark wax. So clear wax, almost empty, and a wax brush, dedicated wax brush. This one's from Jolie. It's again kind of a stiff bristled brush, and I never use anything but clear or white wax with this one. Wax will be white when you're putting it on, but it will dry clear once you work it in. It kind of looks terrible when you start, so don't panic. Welcome to my personal hell, preparing to epoxy tops. This is a product that I have had in my studio for quite some time. This is from Scotch Blue, and it has painter's tape attached to plastic wrap. Pull out the amount that you want, and then it's kind of like a saran wrap. It's got the serrated blade right there. This is what it looks like when everything is fully wrapped up and only the surface that I want epoxy on is exposed. And the little feet have saran wrap booties. And you're over a material you don't care about. This is an actual respirator with filters because my RZ mask that I normally wear, that is for particulates. It is not for toxic fumes. Everyone should wear it because it will do long-term damage. I'm using epoxy resin from a company called Let's Resin. It's an A and B, equal parts, same thing you see me using all the time, and of course I'll be wearing gloves. I'm going to try a different effect this time, which is where I pour it on and then I kind of smooth it around with my hand. All protected. I have to have on hand my heat gun or a torch.
This was a lot of fun to actually put on, and it felt really cool spreading it around with my hand. But I was a little disappointed because I thought I would be able to use a little bit less epoxy, and turns out I ended up using, I think, even more to make sure that I got the coverage that I wanted. You have to use a torch or the heat gun to pop bubbles, and I stayed for about an hour continuing to pop bubbles, and I still think I needed to stay a little bit longer and continue popping. Welcome back to the next day after epoxy coat number 1, and look at what we're left with. So this is the one that I actually threw the glitter into and then spread around with my hands, but you can see, like, there you go, the pock marks. This actually has a second coat that I added to fill in a little bit. This one is even more of a disaster. So yeah, welcome to what you can expect. So you do not get terrified. See that? Looks like Swiss cheese. However, I'm not worried. On this one, I did not do glitter yet. I thought I'd try clear coat and then add the glitter into the second one. So all these little pock marks here, I think, are bubbles, partially. And partially, I think that the wax that I had on top over the paint part repels the epoxy. So we're going to try something else today. We're going to do the second coat, and I may do a barrier around the edge. In this cup, I added a little bit of silver glitter. I know it's hard to see with the reflection. And now I'm going to try and fill in these pock marks. It's been 2 days and several coats of epoxy later,
and we have a pretty darn smooth surface. This one I already unwrapped and scraped all of the excess, and this one I will do on camera for you to see how it all comes apart. That's a wrap, everybody. I have completed these tables in somewhat record time, considering I'm still only on one foot, and I think they came out beautifully. This is Simba. Yes. Nala over here. Nala's looking hot. My diamond from the rough. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe, share it with your friends, whatever it is you do. These tables will be available for sale on my Etsy page, so please follow, like, all that good stuff. It helps me get in front of more people so that I can hopefully do this for my full-time job going forward. So with that, thank you very much, and I will see you next video. Bye!